All right. First question. Where did you grow up?
Right here in Birmingham, Alabama, born May 4th, 1936. And then what was Hillman Hospital on the south side of the city, down in the basement, of course, with the pipes and the radiators.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what was it like growing up in Birmingham?
Well, I grew up in extreme poverty. Of course, I went to segregated schools and had to drink segregated water and stuff. But I had to drop out of school to help the family survive. We were poor, and I emphasize the word poor.
Yes,
but
I hear you.
We had God and we made it.
Yeah, I hear you. So was this high school that you dropped out of college?
High school in 8th.
Okay. And what was the name of the school?
A.H. Parker High.
Okay.
Went to Lincoln Elementary.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How old were you when you first got involved in social issues?
26, because I turned 27 that May. I got involved in 63 here in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And I got hired as a SCLC staff member that same year. And then I went to jail April the 15th, 1963. Like that was my first experience going to jail. For a cause.
So what did you do to get involved?
Well, I drove a church bus. And I was driving by Kelly England Park here in Birmingham. And I saw the commotion in the park. So I drove my people to church and I walked back up, and then I got involved with the fire hose that was going and stuff. So I went back and brought everybody home and told my father, I said, I don't know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But there's a movement going on and I need to see what's going on with it. So I went to the mass meeting, heard Dr. King speak, and he was evangelical. So I started well, I didn't know them then, but I decided that that's what I wanted to do. So about a week or so, you probably know this, James Orange, Reverend James Orange, Robert Seals, Elizabeth Hayes, and myself, we were hired here in Birmingham as SCLC first staff out of this, national staff out of Birmingham. And it went on from there. We went to Texas and worked on the Barbara Jordans in the registration there. We worked, because then the rest, we worked in Montgomery and Selma, March and all that. And I know you know that, but we did some things here in Birmingham in April and May of that year. They had banned the NAACP in the state. And they had, there was only about 600 or 800 black folks registered to vote in this county. And we got 9,000 voted in less than a month. Registered in less than a month with the poll tax,
So how did you find out about the Scope Project?
Hosea Williams, Reverend Hosea Williams.
Can you say a little bit more about how that came about?
Well, we were working in the fields. We were kind of doing some stuff in Montgomery and here in Birmingham. And Hosea was kind of, Reverend Bevel was the organizer too. But Hosea was kind of in charge, us a little bit there. And he asked us to come to Lyons County, and we went.
Okay.
So I got involved in that for that little bit.
Right.
But I was mainly in CLC, of course.
Right. So was that your first Scope project, or was it Montgomery?
That was my first one in Lyons County.
Okay. All right, very good. How dangerous was it for you in Lyons County?
Now, let me say this now. I didn't know at the time, but I get frightened now, but I was so enthusiastic and motivated to make change that he didn't dawn on me that I was in danger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. You know, I'm from Alabama too.
Yeah.
And I joined the Scope Project in my hometown, sort of like you.
Yeah.
It was. So you was on LCLC staff already, so you were assigned to the Scope Project as opposed to joining it in school.
I was assigned to it through Hosea Williams.
So can you say a little bit more about how you joined the LCLC staff?
Like I said, driving school bus, went by the park and seeing the action there, the commotion, came back and got involved then. And I went to the mass meeting and things just moved on. Well, we got to work and we wasn't staff, we didn't know one another. We were just out there going from little area to area, talking to people, getting them ready for the mass meeting. And I tell you what I can't tell you, I don't know how the four of us met, the three of us met. It just happened through being at the mass meeting and in that A.G. Gaston. You know, like as you went to jail, after you get out of jail, you come to A.G. Gaston and they feed you, then you get back ready to march and do the nonviolent training and all of that. So that's how that happened. So, I mean, he was just, I guess God was just in the plan.
So you mentioned earlier that you had gone to jail in Birmingham even before the Scope Project. How many times did you go to jail?
I went to jail twice here and once in Bessemer. Twice here in Birmingham, once in Bessemer. Went to jail in Selma. And that was all for this state right here.
Okay. And were you arrested anywhere else outside of Alabama?
Yeah, Marks, Mississippi, Sylvester, Georgia. Where else did they put me in jail?
Were you beaten?
Oh no, lucky enough, I was abused verbally and jerked around, but not really beaten with a stick or something. Well, I did get yes I was. We got a couple of licks in Selma when Jim Clark and his Caliprise marchers on that march before Bloody Sunday. But it wasn't that bad. I mean, kind of like I said, now I just get frightened now. I was too motivated back then to even be afraid. I didn't even know I was afraid.
Yeah. How did your family react when you got involved?
When I told my father, that was one quick thing. My mother died when I was 18 months old. My grandparents raised me till I was 14. Then my father took over, so we were it. And when I told him, he gave us a blessing. He said, "Just be careful." And that's why I keep saying I never knew I was afraid until years after. I think all the things, you know, like in Demopolis, Boone and I worked down in Demopolis. That's where we were on Bloody Sunday. We weren't in the cell on Bloody Sunday. But anyway, they arrested me and a young lady, and they drove out in the woods. And then we thought we were going to die that day, but that's God's will. He was going to serve a warrant on a white dude. Then they carried us down to Linden, put us in the jail. Now, that's kind of a little scary right there, but it wasn't that scary. But after we saw that he wasn't going to take us out there like they did the boys in Mississippi, we were kind of okay.
Yeah.
Going to jail was a badge of honor.
Yes, it was. Uh, were you concerned about your father because of your involvement?
Not one bit.
Okay.
Not one bit.
See, my experience was just sort of the opposite of that.
Yeah, yeah.
I had to worry about, my family back on the plantation.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Sure,
and,
yeah.
uh, where did you stay when you was in the movement?
Well, here I stayed at home,
Mm-hmm.
and then as we traveled, we stayed with families, and sometimes we stayed in motels, like on the road. So basically, we stayed with families, like when we was in when we was in Louisiana, we stayed with I stayed with a lady, and she fed me breakfast every morning,
Mm-hmm.
and on and on and on. Selma, Montgomery,
Mm-hmm.
Sylvester, George, those kinds of things. We stayed with families in the.
So, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was wonderful. Even though people was afraid, they wanted change, and they would do what they could to help us. And in fact, they would even hide us if the Klan was coming, or they would warn us,
Mm-hmm.
So people, even though they didn't get involved completely, they wanted to help because Black folk wanted to be free.
Mm-hmm.
They want justice. They want equality.
Mm-hmm. So, outside of Lowndes County, where a family was evicted from their home, were any of the host family that you lived with, was they retaliated because you were staying in their house?
None that I know of. See, I didn't have a long stint with Scope because like I was busy, we were busy doing the SCLC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Jose, they wanted us there for a project for a minute. We didn't, I didn't really actually join Scope.
Mm-hmm.
I was a part of that. You might could see that picture right there. That's where we were.
Yeah.
That goes there and stuff right there. But
right.
Anyway. Mm-hmm.
But you was on LCLC staff already, so therefore you was a part of the Scope project, whether you knew it or not.
Yeah, sure. I understand that.
Yeah. Can you give us some example of what you did while you were part of the project?
Scope?
Yes.
Well, basic voter registration, mass meeting, talking to people, trying to assure them that they need to get registered to vote, mm-hmm. and make it better for their county, themselves and their children. That was basically what we did. We had mass meetings. We talked to people. We got in the rural area, knocked on doors, brought people to a mass meeting. So when Dr. King or Jose or Rap, some of them came, they had a crowd, and mm-hmm. we sang songs, the freedom songs, and we revved it up and then gave it over to the big wig.
Mm-hmm. So when you were trying to register people, did you go on plantations?
Yeah, I guess they were plantations. Sure, sharecropping. Yeah, sharecropping. Mm-hmm. Yeah, plantation. But we didn't call it that then. We just called them sharecroppers because mm-hmm. I think down in Wilcox County, there was sort of a slave type camps running up until the 70s, where you had the boss man store, and everything you need you got from the store, and he paid you things called boogaloos. That was happening. I think that was in Wilcox County, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And so, like, if you mean that, yeah, slavery under another name, Jim Crow, black codes, segregation, and fear was the rule after Reconstruction, and after Hayes pulled the troops out and let the Southern whites do their thing. Mm-hmm. They didn't stop lynching. In fact, they haven't stopped really, but they didn't stop really lynching until about we're in the in 60s,
Mm-hmm.
some in the 70s. So, you know, like racism is rooted in the fabric of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not gonna be removed until there's some changes of hearts or some more marching and like they're doing, like Black Lives Matter and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We need more of that.
So, how many marches would you say that you participated in?
A bunch of them. A lot's here, a lot's in Selma,
Mm-hmm.
few in Montgomery, some in Sylvester, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
some in Morris, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Chicago. Oh, if I want to put a number on it, maybe 30 or 40, I'm not sure.
So you and James Owen joined LCLC at the
Same time, yeah, and two other people, Elizabeth Hayes and Robert Seals.
yeah, and James Owen was arrested in Marion, Alabama.
Yeah, that's when Jim Lee Jackson was killed. Well, I was down there that night when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
When they came out of the church, they had put the press across the street and turned the street lights out. And I was standing on the corner, and then when they came out and went left, I didn't hear the shot, but I was down there when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, see, like they arrested James down there. Yeah, that was tragic.
Yeah. So you was in Lowndes County.
I was in Lowndes County for a while and Wilcox.
Yeah. Was that at the time that Valerie Luzo was killed?
I was in Selma then.
Okay.
And here's a fact. I dispatched the driver to take her back to Montgomery. And that night that she was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
I started to say killed, but she was murdered.
Yeah.
I left around Chapel Church.
Yeah. And did you stay when you was in Selma, visit the home of the Wesses behind Brown Chapel?
I'm sure I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the first night we got I think the name of that little motel, but we stayed at that little motel.
Yeah.
Williams,
Mm-hmm.
Meatballs a lot, and James Bell, James Owen and myself, we left Montgomery and went to Selma. That first night we stayed Lula and I, we stayed at the motel. And I stayed with, it's been so long ago, I forget her name.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the lady, but I'm sure I'll visit whoever you say it right. Sure.
That's all right. How were you treated by local whites when you visited community?
Hostile, like most of the time, using the N-word or snaring at me. When I was in Mark, when they arrested me, when they tore me loose, they told me I had to sundown to get out of town. The old Western slang. But yeah, I mean, white was enraged, and they still are, because their bigotry and racism is embedded in them.
How was successful in some of the project that you participated in?
Well, the first two that I'm proud of is Birmingham, the 9,000 within a month, and over the 200,000 that we did in Texas. Those are the best two. Then, of course, when we really got a chance to march from Selma to Montgomery, I'm proud of that. I was a part of that. I wasn't, like I told you, I wasn't in Selma on Bloody Sunday. Richard Boone and I was down in Demopolis in Marengo County, working that area. And then do you remember Richard Gay?
Yep.
Well, he was from Albany. Well, he and I, we went to Sylvester, Georgia to do a project there. So we kind of cleared that up a little bit. And I worked a little bit in there. Well, I didn't work too much in Atlanta. I visited Atlanta a lot.
Yeah.
At the headquarters.
So you worked when you was in Montgomery with Lola Williams?
Yeah, Richard Boone and others.
So what do you think of women being in the movement back then?
I think good of all women, because without them, it wouldn't be us, and they need to be equal to and praised and respected. So I've always respected women. You know what? In my lifetime, I never hardly used that H word. You know, where it start with the W, but I never used that H word. I don't use the B word for them. I respect women because they are the lifeblood of us.
What did you learn and how did it change your life?
Well, from being a poor, uneducated Black man in America, in Birmingham, Alabama, in the South, I got an education. See, I'm basically self-taught. I dropped out in the 8th grade, and I was ignorant. I didn't know anything. And so the movement became my family, my educator, and my mentor. So I learned a lot for just being a part of the movement, being able to travel.
Yeah. And if you could have one photograph from that summer, what would it be?
Which one talking about this? I mean the scope summer?
Yes.
I have it, this one.
Can you?
My grandchildren crazy about it. I mean, I got a larger one.
Okay.
Seeing
So you're pointing to a photograph of Jose Williams, Stoney.
Yeah, right.
And yourself in Believe.
And then Ben Clark.
Yep, Ben Clark was the other, yes.
Yeah.
What freedom songs that stand out in your memory?
We Shall Overcome. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, and Old Freedom.
Okay. Those were the major three.
Yep.
So we're sort of coming to a close. Why do you think it is important to register to vote?
Well, that's a long answer. I'm gonna try to make it this way. It is important because we fought for that right that should have already been ours in the 60s and beyond. People have died, went to jail, been murdered. For that supposed to be constitutional right to vote and make we the people a reality and not just for white people. So it's very important to vote. That's why 45, I don't call his name, so you know what I'm talking about. That's why 45 is doing everything he can now to try to stay in power, because they know the vote counts. See, that one vote put Rutherford B. Hayes in office on the compromise that he would pull his troops out of the South. You know what happened after that, right?
Exactly. So you, after the movement, you pretty much went back to your hometown.
Yeah, my father was.
What was that like for you?
Well, I had to come home because my father was ill, and he took care of me all of my life, but for all but 14 years. And I came back home to be with him until one of us left here, and he left here and went to his heavenly home in 1990. And so I was right there with him. I was holding his hand when he took his last breath. So that's why I came back home. Then I decided to stay and do what I can here, meaning my home city and state.
You are one of the few LCLC staff people that I know of who went back home after the project.
Yeah, true. J.T. Johnson, he was from Atlanta. Yeah, because Lula, she stayed in Atlanta.
Right.
Boone sort of went back to Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
And who else?
Mm-hmm.
That's about the two I know, because Hank
Yeah.
stayed, because Big Hank, he stayed in Montgomery. I mean, in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think now right now, I'm the only survivor of that 4, and I am the only SCLC staff person from here, from the 60s. Now you got locals that's still around, you know.
Right.
But you did you know Tommy Wren and Gilmore and all of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, then you know that. And I'm a surviving member of a great movement that, well, the movement really started in Albany. And that kind of failed because the sheriff wouldn't do this thing right. Yeah. And then when Fred Shutterway invited Dr. King here, that sparked going forward between here and Montgomery, between here, Selma and Montgomery, and DC to the signing of the Civil Rights and the Voting Rights Acts. Do you remember where you and I first met? You know, I was going to ask you about the, I got one question. Are you the person with that vote in your forehead? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jesus. No. I know the one you mean, not that one. No. Okay. I mean, I thought that was you. Yeah. No, but we met in Selma. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I remember that. And then we was in Birmingham together as well. Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for your time and insight. Okay, you're welcome. All right. Thank you. Okay, take care. All right. You be blessed and peace. Peace for you too. All right. I'm shutting down. All right.
Sounded like swimming, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to save it now.
It gives you what
It should.
I've never seen, because I've never done it at the end.
It should say save.
Huh, no kidding. I've never seen that. End meeting for all.